I've told you.
Oh, is that what the pyramid is for?
Ding!
Oh, okay, well, I didn't know.
Ding!
It's pretty good.
Thank you. Yeah, see?
Look at this side.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, I didn't read the top. I remember where I was.
Of course you did.
Look at this side. It's
See.
like 1, 2.
That is cool.
Thank you very much.
And then you reached the top.
Came to me in the bathroom.
Excellent. It's green.
See?
It's the.
Yes, exactly.
May is like a
Can't put anything over on you guys. Well, it's hot enough for the hand death march outside, so it's supposed to be super fun. How are you? How did that last week?
Yeah, I gotta try my phone.
She says with just a lot of doubt.
Yeah, I don't know. I want you to bring it.
Oh, you didn't call it?
Oh, cool. All right.
So I felt that they lost.
I was like, oh.
Well, I'm not.
Yeah, that's a sign. That's a sign. Well,
Yeah.
you know.
It's
You know.
It's going on.
Well, you got a ton of people on the live stream.
Yes.
Well, apparently everybody wants to be in their own air-conditioned homes this evening because we got a ton of people on the live stream. So thank you guys for being here. And what I thought that we would do this evening is a couple of things. One is sort of give an overview of the coming year, right? But also this gives us an opportunity to talk through just like a couple of neat things specific to our students' experiences here, right? And what we're trying to do really to maximize our students' experiences. And for those of the thousands of you on the live stream, what we're going to have is some really nifty take-homes that we'll have available here. One of which I want to talk about, and we've got some board members here tonight who also want to chime in. And I never say no when board members want to talk about something having to do with our student experiences. So that's great. I want to, first before I forget, to acknowledge that we've got a couple of alumni here tonight, Emmy and Alejandro, and we get to play some music, and we'll talk about that momentarily. But the first take-home that we'll have available here in the lobby, and also electronically, I think we'll have it in lots of forms, is this Pyramid for Successful Music Study. It's also available on our Movision screen out in the lobby, and you can access that information there as well. The idea is that, you know, I'm entering into, you guys are gonna giggle, I'm entering into my 38th year of teaching. You know, 22 of them spent with the three of you, basically. You know, right? So I'm entering into my 38th year of teaching, and one of the things I've been thinking about, in particular post-pandemic, what are those elements that are more or less somewhat specific to music study, right? That makes that, I think, very enriching, very rewarding for our students. And what do we really want ultimately for our students at the musical offering? Well, in a way, that's very simple. I want all of my students and all of the students who are active here, however they're active, to have the skills necessary so they can really enjoy music like throughout the rest of their lives, right? Setting them up for musical enjoyment, however they want to engage with that for the rest of their lives. And I think we're doing some really good work to that end, right? And so one of the things I was thinking about is, we don't often, especially since so many of us are crazed parents, we have so many things to think about. Oftentimes, we're not able to successfully differentiate, unless we've had like a lot of experience ourselves with music study, between like what we're doing in music and what we're doing with other drop-off activities, right? So if you're on a sports team, if you're involved in theater or dance or all this skating, like all these wonderful things, so much of what goes on in these drop-off activities occurs at that activity. With music study, it's the exact opposite. In order for music study to be successful, it's really all about what happens at home, all by yourself with your instrument. Right? And so that's sort of like the crux. Everything else is sort of dependent on that. And a good teacher is really going to support and assist you in developing ways of connecting with your instrument so that you can build a really great relationship with that instrument and build, I think, a really strong relationship with your own personal practice, so that then when you go on and want to be in like a band or a choir, an orchestra, or play chamber, whatever you want to do, you really have those tools that you need for your own self-confidence, your sense of being able to collaborate effectively with each other, and just to enjoy your own music making. So those are really important things. So what I've done is basically create a prioritized list, somewhat like a flow chart. So if you start at the base of this pyramid, well, it's all about your personal practice. And everything else that you do musically is sort of really dependent on this initial level, right? And so just sort of moving up then after that, sort of mastering your assignment from week to week, participating in opportunities like studio classes where you get to come and play, and more importantly hear others play. And we've got our studio class schedule. Hear your teacher performing. A lot of my students have no idea that I'm a concert pianist. They have no idea. They've never heard me play. And if you've never heard your teacher play, and we're really lucky at the Musical Offering because almost every single teacher here is a really active and engaged professional performer who also has a passion for teaching, right? And so if you've never heard your teacher play, you have no idea who your teacher is. And so that's really important, in addition just to hearing live music making, which leads us to hearing other live performances when you're able to, and then making sure you yourself participate if there's a recital opportunity or other kind of activity that you can participate in, both within the MO and outside the MO. That's great. So, Julian, I think you've got some thoughts about some of this, right? Sure. Yeah. So this is Julian Brown, our board president, and also Musical Offering student.
That's right. Yeah. So, good evening. And part of what I want to talk about is really having multiple roles. That I am also a student, and I can tell you that from the beginning, I really started playing piano at 52. And people say, well, how do you start playing an instrument as an adult? And I just say, well, you just have to practice every day. Because that is the only variable that matters. Because if you practice, you will play your instrument as well as you can for that amount of practice. It's a really very simple equation. There's lots of music, so you don't have to compare yourself to music you can't play that you really may not like, but there is always some music you want to play. Now, when I started, I talked myself into it by saying, well, there's lots of slow music. You don't have to play any fast music. And then a few years later, I learned with my teachers, oh, slow music is actually harder. Because people hide behind all those notes when they're just playing so fast, you can't really know what they got wrong. But when you are playing Da, da, da. You go da, da. Everyone notices. So it's a different, it's still true, I like slow music, but it turns out that my original motivation was false. That's not necessarily the solution. So I would like to reiterate that practice is a key element, but also the role of how you can support the student as a parent or person involved with the person taking lessons. If you actually started studying the instrument yourself, that is excellent too. But the other thing is just to reinforce it, like it is a day-to-day thing. It's a thing that is, we lose sight of what's a valuable life skill. We all agree that reading is a valuable life skill. But I assert that music is also a valuable life skill. And in fact, you learn them both the same way. If we don't read every day when we're small, it's hard to read easily as an adult. And one of the differences between as a child and things you can learn as an adult is that you had this experience where you spend hours just reading, and I've gathered from some of my musician friends that there's their lessons and there's their practice, and those were discrete times where they had to do something. But then there was just the fiddling about. And that fiddling about is just like sitting around, reading a novel that you want to read that your teacher doesn't know about, and your parents aren't ready, but just you're actually just doing reading. The second way you can be involved is, and I encourage you, is to consider either volunteering to support some of the performance events that we have, and also consider joining the board. We have a very low intensity board. Basically, we meet once a month to support Michelle and Rick and the operations of the school. I've got a few sheets on the table. If you'd like to get a description of it, you can take a look at it later. But I hope that we all have a very prosperous year of learning new things and discovering new skills.
Thank you. Rini, did you want to chime in?
Oh, sure. So I am no musician, but my kids have been here for years and years. Steve studied with Rick at.
So this is Rini Ruckteschell, also a board member.
Yes.
And Rini and I have known each other since, oh my goodness.
Oh, let's talk
long.
about it, Rick. It's been a very long time. And Steve studied with you for, I don't know, 10 plus years, something like
it's
that.
true, it's true.
Yeah, and my son just started college, and he just played his band for the first day.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. Like, I know my shy boy who really had to work hard to be a good musician. If you want to talk about practice, I mean, he got to what he got to by practice. So
Yeah, Steve is a bulldog.
he's a bulldog, and he was determined. But actually, what I wanted to read to you, I forgot my little piece of paper. So when I was at the college, what they said at parent orientation was that as you go to this school, we want you or your child to not only be able to get a good job, but have a good life. And it made me think right away of the musical offering. And it made me think, like, we want your child to be a good musician, but even better, we want to enrich their life by making them a good audience member, a good participant, and I would say for my kids, who I think probably both struggled with learning disabilities, I would say that music lessons were probably the best thing one could do to teach problem solving on your own. It took a long time for it to settle in, and a lot of it, like Rick would feed my kid what you do to get through this piece, and then suddenly one day you hear your kid figuring out that, like, oh, this is how I figure out this passage. This is how I do it. And some people get it faster, but I don't think faster is necessarily the
Yeah, it's not
piece
the-
that we're going
Yeah.
for. So anyway, I encourage you to be a part of this community in as many ways as possible. As Julian said, there are many ways to be a part of it. My husband's been on the board a couple of times. This is my first tour.
Yeah, John's a repeat customer.
John's a repeat customer, so it can't be all bad. And yeah, so I encourage you to be a participant. I encourage you to be an audience member. Hear your teachers play. They are extraordinary. Plus, it's like this little mini music history lesson that I really value. So it's in the beginning, it was a little bit past bedtime, but it was worth it.
How's my bedtime?
Yeah, I know. Well, now it's way past my bedtime, but it's still worth it.
Yeah, thank you, Reed. You know, one more thing I'll say before we have some Brahms is, you know, I've, over the years as a teacher, of course, you know, I mean, we're observing all of these things anecdotally. And now we have so much of the science to back up what we music teachers have been observing for so many years. And one of the things that of course I've noticed is, yeah, there have been so many changes culturally, technologically, you know, in the last 38 years. But one thing that has not changed at all is the human brain. The brain is the brain. And the brain needs what it needs in order to learn. And, you know, my hero, seriously, is Dr. Nina Kraus at Northwestern, and Nina has been at the forefront. She's literally written the book, like several, on the process of what's involved in brain neurological and auditory development, specifically to music study, right? You really should check out her work. And one of the things that she has discovered is so nice because it validates what music teachers have been saying for the last several hundred years, but now we have the science to back it up. One of the things that she's noticed is that the process of practice is actually the formation of specific neural pathways in the brain that are only specific to music, right? And also auditory development. And that the brain thrives on meaningful repetition. That's what practice is. It's simply meaningful repetition, right? And in order to create those pathways, she's actually now come up with the information necessary for us to know, like, what that minimum point is to create like enough significant pathway formation in the brain. It's the equivalent of, now it doesn't necessarily have to be continuous, but it's the equivalent of at least 5 years of music study. That's the formula. If you reach that point, the odds of you having the skills necessary, sort of the brain wiring in place so that it remains with you throughout your life, that's the point, right? So now we know that's the investment. That's the investment, both in terms of the financial investment, in terms of the investment of, you know, constantly feeling what it's like to hit a wall when we practice. Well, what's going on when we hit that wall and we want to, you know, basically chop our piano up into firewood or whatever, right? That is the brain reaching a point where then it can't go easily any further, and then new formations start to happen. That's what happens. We literally feel what's going on inside our brains as our brains are going. That's the point of frustration, when we're starting to form additional pathways in our brains, right? And so if, you know, my thing is, all right, you know, you hit that wall, because I usually hit that wall at least 2 times every time I practice. If you hit that wall, then you just sort of sit with it, maybe for 2 or 3 more minutes. And you just stay with it a little longer, right? That way you're sort of pushing a little bit more, you're sort of forming a little bit more of that neural material, right? That sort of enhances what they call neuroplasticity in the brain, and then it makes it easier the next time you go back to it. So each time you push just a little bit harder, right? And so that formation that we need to be really musically confident is just sort of built over time. It's almost like weight training, you know, you're just doing it with your brain. So I love geeking out about that stuff. I think it's so interesting, and it's also, I think, very relevant to our experience as we're practicing. because we literally feel what's going on inside our brains, which I think is neat. Nina also has these really neat pictures, I think on her website, of scans of the brain while music practice is going on. And it's like a fireworks thing, with the idea being that music practice, and also to a great extent listening to music, it's one of the few activities that equally activates both hemispheres of the brain, right? Very few other activities do that. So there's a lot to get from this whole music business thing. Speaking of which, let's play some Brahms. So here we have the trio for violin, French horn, and piano. And this was a rather significant piece of music because it's one of the first pieces that actually explored this combination, this particular trio of instruments. And Emmy, I think probably at this particular time when Brahms wrote this, like the middle part of the 19th century, would the horn player have been doing it on a valved horn?
No.
No. Can you talk a little bit about that whole thing? You lucky Dickens, you. So this would have been played on a natural horn, is that right?
Yeah, so this is the modern French horn. It's called a double French horn because there's 3 sets of valves, and then behind it is a 4th one, which is complicated, but there's an F side and a B flat, so double horn. And before that, there was a single horn, so there was only the F side. And before that, the French horn was just this shape. So Brahms wrote this piece for the natural horn. Did I do it?
Yeah, and because there were not vowels, like what's the nice thing about having vowels? Because if you're doing on a natural horn and you're having to play all these pitches, what are you having to do with your right hand?
You have to bend your, here, I can demonstrate. You have to
Oh,
bend,
goody, we get a demonstration.
you bend your hand to get the pitch that you want. So it would sound really weird.
So that's what the horn is. And Brahms' dad was actually his first teacher, and he was a double bass player, but he was also a horn player. And so, this piece I think had special significance for Brahms, but because of that. We should probably check our thing. This is old home week. You guys just can't stay away, because we've been playing chamber music together for quite a number of years, and these two. Where are you in college right now, Amy?
I'll be a second year at Northwestern.
True. Alejandro?
I'll be at second year at University of Oregon.
That's true. All right, let's have some Brahms. Awesome. And there'll be more, I promise, after we finish with the javelin party. We have another alum with us too, an alumna. Allie? You just, now, where are you? Because you just graduated, right?
No, I have another year.
You have another year.
Yeah.
And you're at McAllister,
Yes.
and you're getting a degree in,
Physics and math.
and you've been doing some really cool stuff this summer at,
Berkeley.
and what have you been doing?
I have been working on research in material science, working towards cryopreservation, which if you don't know what that is freezing organs, among other things, to be safe for transplants. So I was basically slicing tissues, chicken breast, very thinly, and then freezing it all summer. It was a lot of fun.
So in other words, you're simultaneously working on your scientific skills and your sushi skills
Yeah.
at the same time, so you can do like
That was the goal.
double good. Okay, very good, very good. And what did you do last summer? Because this is fun.
Yeah, so last summer was different. I did a similarly structured internship at Washington State University, but I was working on solar cells, organic solar cells. More material science, but.
I gotta hang out with you like during the summer, like what are you gonna? Because it's
Come
just
with
like a
me.
lot of fun.
West Coast
And of course, what instrument did you play here like forever and a day?
Clarinet.
That's right.
Yeah, and I still do. I play in the orchestra at McAllister, and I have to audition for that in a week or two.
Tick,
Yeah.
tick. All right, Michelle and I, and for those of you that do not know our operations director, but I think everybody does because you sort of have to. There's no way to avoid Michelle, right? Michelle and I have been working really diligently on, sort of organizing our events calendar and other needed information just to sort of streamline the whole information gathering process. So Michelle, could you want to talk just a little bit about
Just
all that
real quick.
stuff?
Hi, I'm Michelle. So you all, if you took a packet on the way in, you received this fun sheet, which is very informative for our school year. And for everyone online, these will be out in our lobby, and they're also available online at themusicaloffering.org/school-calendar. So you can download those digitally if you are more of a digital person. But so we have all of our.
That's been one of the issues, right? Is
Yeah.
people not knowing exactly where to find the calendar, right?
Yeah.
And you've actually sort of rejiggered that whole thing. So
So
I
I
think
made it
now
kind
that-
of easier to read and easier to find. So hopefully that is helpful. So this front page just shows all the important dates like school breaks, when the sessions start and end, when registration is. So all of that helpful information. On the back is all of our events for the year. There will be more added throughout the year, I'm sure, but this is what we have planned right now. The big ones for students, you'll kind of go in more to the recitals we have, but will be the holiday musical recital days at the beginning of December. So how those work will be how they have worked in the past if you're new here. There's 4 different days. Your child does not have to perform on every single day. Your studio teacher will be assigned an hour or a few hours depending on the size of your studio time slots for those recitals, and then you'll sign up for a recital and come in and play with your studio. And it's a really fun event. That event also goes along with our annual fundraiser that we have at the school, one of 2 fundraisers that we have. The other important one for everybody, well, I guess there's 3 important ones. The second one is the Bach Festival Workshop Day. We have our Bach Festival in late February, mid-March. You'll hear more about that coming up, but it's a fun event where students will play pieces by Bach or his contemporaries. You get to go in and meet with a Mo teacher who is not your teacher for 10 minutes, play your piece, and you get comments. It's really, really helpful to hear comments from other teachers who don't play your instrument. Very valuable. And then, so the biggest one probably is the music marathon at the very end of the year in May. That also goes along with our music marathon fundraiser. That works in a similar way, where your teacher will get a time slot for your recital. You'll come in and play your recital, and that's kind of our big end of year celebration of all the hard work we did throughout the year. So I think those are the most important points about the calendar. If you have not registered for the fall session yet, do that by Sunday, please. And then the fall session starts on Monday already,
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
almost September, which is wild. Always feel free to, I'm always better by email, by the way. Feel free to shoot me an email at operations@themusicaloffering.org with any general questions, any scheduling specific questions will always go to your teacher. So I think that's kind of it for me though.
Cool.
Yeah,
All right.
thanks.
Very good, very good. And you know, with specifically our student performance opportunities, with the holiday musical recitals in December and then the music marathon, at the end, I think more than anything else is our opportunities to come together as a musical community at those two specific times. Because it's sort of all hands on deck, everybody has an opportunity. And, you know, I've had some students who have either they're very new and they're not so sure how they're feeling about this getting up and playing in front of other people thing because they haven't done it before. Well, when they go to a studio class, that really helps sort of like work through a lot of that stuff. But one thing I think that can be very, very helpful, and parents, I want you to remember this, if you're having any issues with your child about, you know, sort of playing for others, I think it's very helpful just to come and listen, just to come and observe. Because usually when that happens, they say, oh, that's not what I thought it was. I thought it was this thing where there were like, you know, like spikes in the piano bench and like, you know, laser beams and things, yeah, right? And so it can be very helpful because we learn so much just through observation and through listening. So I'm a big fan of that kind of thing. Just a little bit more programming information specifically for this fall. We have a 3-part Women's Composers series. And we're working with some great funding partners, Evanston Arts Council, Dr. Scholl Foundation, Romano Wealth Management, and also our insurance agent, Trevor Patches, American Family. Trevor's great. So we've got, and it means a lot to have their sponsorship. There are basically 3 components to this Women Composer series, and we've been doing it now for several years, so we've worked some bugs out in it, and it's coming along very nicely. The first will be, I think, October 14th. I'm doing a lecture recital, and this year's subject will be a Russian composer, Galina Usvotskaya, and she was Dmitri Shostakovich's only female composition student. And I think that Galina is hands down the most complex personality that I've ever run across. And she was composing right at the end and seeing like the fall of the Soviet Union, where, you know, from a Russian perspective, it really was the end of days. And so she was trying to navigate that entire scenario at that time. And it's just fascinating. So we're going to hear some of her music, going to hear some of Shostakovich's music, and sort of do a little teacher-student comparison kind of thing. And then a few weeks later, we'll have a chamber music concert. Stefania Turkevich, who's thought to be really the mother of Ukrainian composition, right, in terms of female Ukrainian composers. And then Brazilian composer Chiquinho Gonzaga, whose music I like, and she was doing composition, performing pianist, and a conductor at a time, especially in Brazil, when there was no way that you were going to be allowed to do that. So she was a real trailblazer. And then 20th century composer Germaine Taillefer. We're going to be doing some of her music, a group of her songs, and then her piano trio. So that'll be fun. And then the third component is the winner's concert for our Young Women's Composition Competition. And this year we'll be hearing submissions from last year we got submissions from all across the US, Canada, Singapore, Beijing, and in the high school division, the winner, Noura, she's from Tehran, Iran. And so, we're starting to get some traction with this, so I'm looking forward to hearing what submissions we'll get this year. So that's sort of a nifty thing. Another thing that's specific to the musical offering is our High School Mo Show. It's an original musical theater production. These guys could tell you more than you ever want to know about the Mo Show because they've been a part of it. But I think this will be the 14th year that we've done it. And it really is incredible. Now the project has evolved to the point where there is a student board that's in charge of all of the organization. Going into this, we'll have performances the first weekend, 3 performances in February at the Devonshire Theater in Skokie. And that's a really great, you remember when we used to do them all here, right? Like cramming all these people in it, yeah, like 6 performances. It's like the fire code is just horrible. And so this partnership with the Skokie Park District and Devonshire Theater, it's really great. I think it's very good for us. And it's great to have access to a nice theater with nice sound, nice lighting, that whole thing. And these kids are writing all the music. They write the script, they direct, they create the choreography together. They do everything. And so it's really quite an impressive thing. So you'll definitely want to take 75 of your closest friends and go see a performance of that. And then again, I want to highlight the importance of our monthly studio classes. And Michelle will have that schedule up, I think probably within the next week to 10 days, like that kind of thing. And students will, I think, benefit a lot from playing, but hearing each other play or sing. We've got a couple of new programming things this year. We're doing a significant expansion. It just sort of happened of our vocal programming. One is we're partnering with the Evanston Children's Choir, and they are offering an entry level for 1st through 5th graders choir. They call it a story choir. It's an 8-week session, and it's a themed story choir where they're just sort of like doing. Do we know what the theme is for the first 8 weeks?
It's the Little Mermaid.
It's the Little Mermaid. So they're doing all music based, on a particular theme. Then they're going to be doing a performance. So what this does for our younger students, it's fun and it's a great opportunity just to have that collaborative vocal opportunity. But it's supporting what we're doing in terms of ear training. And I think that's the best thing. And Gary Geiger, who is the founder and primary director of the Evanston Children's Choir, fun fact. Gary and I go back to 1991 at NU. We're studying piano with the same teacher, and Gary is fabulous. It actually started as the Musical Offering Children's Choir back in 1993. No, 2003. It was 2003, right? And after several years, they just sort of outgrew our space. They went off, and that's how we got the Evanston Children's Choir. And so it's nice for us to be collaborating again. That's great. The thing maybe I'm most excited about, we're starting a musical theater scenes class. And it's very inclusive, lots of different ages. And we haven't even advertised it. We already have how many people signed up for this thing?
I think like 5.
Yeah, and we haven't even advertised it yet, So we're going to be doing a musical theater scenes class. And I think that's going to be a great outlet, because there are so many things of an inclusive nature with the older, more experienced singers modeling for the younger singers, and it's just exciting and a lot of fun. So we'll be having some performance opportunities for those people, and not on our program, we're now offering an entry-level chamber music, Orchestra 1 class that our teacher Rachel Brown is going to be facilitating. All of these guys sort of help form Orchestra, right? But we've never really had like a solid entry-level thing. It's sort of like you have to be able to like play, but now we want to start to teach these skills as soon as possible. So that's great. So you've already talked, Julian, I think about board service opportunities, which I very much support. One more thing I'll bring to our attention. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Evanston-based realtor Jackie Mack, right? Jackie is great. And several years ago, she started to do this thing, the Jackie Mack Commission Mission. Rolls off the tongue really well. And so it's based specifically for Evanston nonprofit organizations. And there's a specific voting period. You just go online, take 30 seconds, you click on your organization that you want to vote for, and the first prize for the organization that gets the most votes, $5,000. That's a lot of scholarships for us, right? And so this will be the third year that the musical offering has participated, and we've won some prize money before, but in observing how this whole thing works, right? Because there's strategy apparently to this whole thing. We need a minimum of 500 votes. That's what we need. We need 500 votes in order to win a significant prize, And now Jackie's great because I think she offers at least 5, if not more, prizes, right? But I want a lot of scholarship money. And so in order for that to happen, you've got to reach out to everybody that you know and say, all right, you got to vote for this thing because Rick needs scholarship money, right? And so we need 500 votes. That's what how many did we do last year? Because last year was sort of is meh last year,
I
right?
think we got 5th place last year.
Yeah. But we've done
The year
better than
before
the
we got
year
like
before.
3rd place.
Yeah, see, right. So I think we need 500 votes. All right, so voting for that starts on September 5th. The voting period is for September 5th through the 20th. And so Michelle will be sending out and hopefully bugging everybody so badly that you'll just want to vote and get everybody you know to vote just to shut her up, right? And so that's what we want. That's what we want. And it really makes a huge difference, especially at the beginning of the academic year. So that's great. Before we hear our last Brahms movement, is there anybody here that has any questions that I can answer? We tried to sort of be somewhat comprehensive. And for those of you who are online, tough luck. All right, let's do some Brahms. I think that the second movement, and the last movement, the fourth movement is somewhat similar, but there is a lot of hunting horn reference that's going on, which is an awful lot of fun. Check this one more time. Sure. This is why I do this job. So thank you for Emmy and Alejandro doing this. A lot of fun, right? And for those younger students, this actually is the kind of thing that happens. You guys hearing that? This is the kind of thing that happens when you stay with it for a bit. So thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in.
We have a raffle.
And we have a raffle.
And we're pulling two. Who wants to throw a name? Right?
Did everybody get their names in?
I think so.
Okay.
All right, Alejandro, come draw. This is how.
I'm gonna take one and then I'll go to Andy.
So this is for $100 tuition credit.
So the first person, Amy Owen. Amy.
Amy was here.
Yeah.
Can't read the first one, but the last name was Acosta.
Ana Maria.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of squiggles.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
Cool. Thank you, guys. And Michelle, we will have this available to watch,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it'll go up.
Yeah. So we'll have it on our YouTube channel, right? Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys for coming. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yes.